Power, innovation, and the future of humanity itself. When two of the most influential figures in modern history, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, sat down for their weekly White House meeting, these were the forces at play. Policy and technology, vision and strategy, politics and ambition, all clashing and merging in a discussion that could shape the world. But this time, something was different. An unexpected presence had joined them. Elon Musk had brought his young son, X, a child born into a world of billion-dollar ventures and interplanetary dreams. X moved through the grand White House conference room with an air of quiet curiosity, absorbing everything with wide, inquisitive eyes. While the meeting carried on as usual, discussing space exploration and the frontiers of technology, no one expected X to pose a question that would bring the conversation to a standstill. A question so profound that even Donald Trump, a man who prided himself on always having an answer, found himself momentarily speechless. It wasn't about politics or business. It wasn't about Mars or rockets. It was about something much greater. Trump, ever the showman, smirked. "So, Elon, bringing your heir to the empire today? Starting him young, huh?" Elon chuckled, adjusting his suit jacket. "He's a curious one. I figured he might enjoy the experience. He likes being around conversations about the future." X, having tired of his explorations, now stood near Trump's chair, staring at the former president with wide, inquisitive eyes. Then, in the clear, unfiltered honesty of a child, he asked, "Mr. Trump, have you ever talked to God?" The room fell silent. Trump blinked, momentarily thrown off guard. He was used to tough questions from the press, from political adversaries, even from Elon. But this was different. Questions so simple, yet so profound, posed by a child who seemed to expect an answer, not evasion. Trump shifted in his seat, his fingers tapping against the polished mahogany table. "Well, kid, that's quite a question. Talking to God, huh? That's something." X didn't look away, waiting patiently for a real answer. His eyes, filled with innocence and curiosity, didn't carry the skepticism of a reporter or the shrewd calculations of a politician, just the pure expectation that Trump, a man who had seemingly seen it all, might have an answer worth listening to. Trump exhaled, leaning forward slightly. "You know, a lot of people ask about God. Some people feel him, some people talk to him in their own way. For me, well, I'd say I think about him a lot. You ever feel something deep inside, like a voice? Not in words, but in your heart? That's kind of how I think about it." Trump paused, glancing at Elon, as if silently asking him where his son had come up with such a question. But Elon remained quiet, observing, letting the conversation unfold naturally. Trump turned his attention back to X, who still had that expectant look on his face, waiting for something more. "You see, kid," Trump continued, shifting in his chair, "when you get to be my age, you don't always ask the questions. You start thinking about the answers you should have asked years ago. And maybe talking to God isn't about words. Maybe it's about listening. You ever have a moment where everything just feels, right? Like something bigger than you is making sure things fall into place?" X furrowed his brow, considering the thought carefully. "When I build something, and it just works, I don't know how, but it just does." Trump chuckled, nodding. "Something like that. Maybe God doesn't talk to us the way people do. Maybe he talks in moments, in feelings, in the way things happen. Some folks hear him in church, some hear him in the quiet, some hear him when they're on top of the world, and some hear him when they're at rock bottom." X tilted his head. "So you don't hear words?" Trump shook his head. "Not words, kid, but I hear something. And sometimes I think that's enough." Elon, who had remained silent through the exchange, finally spoke. "X, what made you ask that question?" X shrugged, looking thoughtful. "I just wanted to know if important people talk to God." Trump smirked. "Well, kid, maybe talking to God isn't about being important. Maybe it's about knowing you're not the most important thing in the universe." The conversation drifted back to more typical matters: space policy, technological advancements, the role of private industry in NASA's future. But the moment lingered in Trump's mind long after the meeting had ended. That evening, alone in his study at Mar-a-Lago, Trump found himself staring into the dim glow of a flickering fireplace, a tumbler of Diet Coke resting on the table beside him. He wasn't a philosopher. He wasn't a theologian. But that simple question, have you ever talked to God, refused to leave him? Why had X asked him that? And more importantly, why did it make him feel unsettled? Trump leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. He had spent his life in the spotlight, commanding boardrooms, rallying crowds, making deals. He had spoken with world leaders, billionaires, and scientists. But had he ever truly spoken to God? Had he ever listened? Maybe X had reminded him of something he had once known but forgotten. Maybe the question had come not from the child, but through him, from somewhere else. He let out a deep sigh, staring at the flames dancing before him. Well, God, if you're listening, I guess I'm thinking about you now. That's something, right? For a moment, the world seemed a little quieter, a little more still. Maybe that was the answer. This story reminds us that the most profound questions often come from the most unexpected places. A child unburdened by political affiliations, ego, or intellectual barriers can ask something so pure and fundamental that even the most powerful figures are forced to pause and reflect. Elon Musk and Donald Trump represent two very different ways of looking at the world, one as a visionary engineer who sees the universe through the lens of physics and innovation, the other as a businessman and former leader who thrives on power and influence. Yet when confronted with the question of God, both men are reminded of something beyond their control, something far greater than their ambitions. Trump, a man known for his confidence and ability to control narratives, finds himself genuinely questioning his own beliefs. The story suggests that spirituality, or at least the contemplation of higher meaning, isn't reserved for theologians or philosophers. It's something that can creep into the minds of even the most unlikely individuals. The story also highlights the way children perceive the world. X, with his innocent curiosity, sees no reason why such a question shouldn't be asked. He forces those around him to confront thoughts they may have long buried beneath the weight of responsibility and ambition. In the end, Trump's realization that simply thinking about God might be an answer in itself shows that spirituality doesn't always come in the form of divine revelation or grand epiphanies. Sometimes it's just about stopping for a moment and acknowledging the unknown. Perhaps the real lesson here is that questioning is more important than answering. The act of wondering about God, about the universe, about our place in it all, is what truly matters. And just maybe, that's the closest we ever get to talking to God. It's a reminder that a single moment of support can change the course of someone's life. What does kindness mean to you? Have you ever experienced a moment like this, where someone's belief in you made all the difference? Or maybe you've been that person for someone else? Let's keep these moments alive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach more people and share more inspiring content. Your comments are incredibly valuable, and who knows, your words might just inspire someone else today. Let's keep spreading kindness together.